Okay, good evening, everyone. So today we'll look into first the syllabus of post-independence India and also Indian society, which is in GS paper one. Then we'll also talk about social justice GS2. So first thing, all these topics, post-independence, Indian society, and social justice are interrelated. And how it is interrelated? So when we look at society, so what is the meaning of society? So when we say we are part of a society or manage a, or humans are social animal, so what is the meaning of this? It means that we are somehow different from other species because we are building things. Whatever we are seeing around us are built by human beings. But when you look into other species, they generally live in within nature. There is a nature's world. They get their food from nature, and we also started from that stage. We also in our primitive society, we were also getting our food from nature, and we can look into this idea that how we were dependent on nature into various social institutions like religion talks about worship of nature. Then like this idea of vegetarianism, it's also coming from this idea of our dependence on nature. So therefore, human beings live within a society, means with other people, natural things, and we create various things like economy created by us, the system of education created by human beings, technology, everything is created by people. So everything is constructed. So like this wood has a very different feature in nature. It was in the form of a tree. If we will not make these desks, then it will again go back to the nature. It will be a part of soil and it will convert into some other thing. So therefore, everything, either it's about economy, technology, laws, anything, customs, system of family, caste, class. So all these things are have will have impact on our way of life, and in this process we are changing. At the same time, these institutions are also changing. Like earlier, people were in economic exchange relationship in the system of barter. They will give something and they will get back something. Now we have a very modern kind of economic system which runs on digital platforms, and at the same time we interact with people also. So we'll look into how these things have impact on society. So first we'll look at this idea of technology. So like simple example from our life world. So like everyone is now concentrated on a very small screen, mobile phone. So at the same time, we are communicating with more people, like friends from childhood, friends from college, then friends from some strangers also becoming friends. But people to people interaction is decreasing because people are not meeting other people. They will either WhatsApp someone or video call or a phone. So people are not meeting. So what will be the impact? So first impact is our economy is also becoming ICT based, means information and communication technology based. So if I have to buy something, I will go online and buy things. But at the same time, if you look at the behavior of people, so behavior of people is also changing. We are moving to extremes. Like we believe that there can be only one truth. So people are also fighting over these communications because they do not see the subjectivity or emotional aspects of other human being. So if you go to a rural place even today, so people can debate, people can be at extreme, but they will not fight. But in urban areas or anywhere where this technology is expanding, the behavior is changing. People are becoming clogged into their mind. They are looking at screens. A screen is changing them, and also at the same time, humans are also changing these ideas. Like see the this development of Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter. So what they have done, they have, these things led to like trolling, then religious polarization. All these things are done through these mediums. So it means interactions are changing. But this change in interaction is not due to only this information and communication technology. From very ancient period when technologies were developed, societies started becoming fragmented. Like caste came. What was the system of caste? It was fragmentation on the basis of occupation. So at that time, there was this change. No, initially it was, initially, like Barna is a very different thing. It's a theoretical thing. It's in the books. But in society, we practice caste. So initially it was fragmentation on the basis of occupation. Then it became rigid, became based on birth. Then other technologies started coming. Then, like, see the settlement patterns. People are living in very localized, like in Rajendra Nagar. Everyone, there is no conception of open spaces. There are some parks. So it means that interaction was decreasing even from ancient time when these technologies were coming. Idea of private property was coming. लोग क्या कर रहे थे, बोले थे अब प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी चाहिए उनको, पहले तो ऐसा कंसेप्शन नहीं था. And now, if you look at this idea of interaction in contemporary times, like people living in apartments, so it's like this apartment. So people are living in different boxes in society, like animals used to live in earlier times. No one is interacting with each other. Even people do not know who are living besides their flat. So it means interaction is decreasing, and how they are interacting? They are interacting through these information and communication platforms. If you look at your interaction with your family members, you do not need to go to your village or your place because every day you talk to your family members. So those kinds of direct interactions are decreasing. And what is the impact? Suppose I am an individual, you are also an individual, but we all are different. Why we all are different? Because we have subjectivities. Subjectivities means when I look at something, I can have a very different interpretation of it, be it politics, be it economy, be it religion, everything. What makes us human? This difference in subjectivity, so that I can think very differently from other person. But what technology is doing? It is homogenizing our consciousness. Means technology is controlling our consciousness. तो अब क्या होता है, एक सिंपल सा ह्यूमर आएगा और वायलेंस हो जाएगा. हाँ, it's making us, it's converting into machines. So a screen will give you some input and you will respond in the same way. So your friend posted a picture. So even if you do not like the picture, you have to like it, right? So we have to respond in the same way. So basically, we are being disciplined. And so we'll read about in Indian society, also in the post-independence, who is disciplining us? Is it the state which disciplines us? Is it the corporate houses which are disciplining us, like Facebook and big corporate houses? Or it's the dominant group in our society which are disciplining us, or everyone is disciplining us. So we'll read about all these things in society. So technology can make changes in society. Like if you look at technology, technology has changed the nature of intimacy. Like when we talk about intimacy, so intimacy is one of the ideas which makes us different from other species. So we have made various rules about intimacies. So we have very organized form of intimate relationship. But technology is changing those relationships. Love is becoming temporary. Love can be, one can have love with multiple people. So it means the nature of intimacy is changing. People are going for serial monogamy. So they married one person, then after some time they felt that this marriage is not working, they will again marry. So serial monogamy. और वो कहाँ से आ रहा है? ये सारे जो टेक्नोलॉजिकल डेवलपमेंट हो रहे हैं, बिकॉज फॉर टेक्नोलॉजिकल डेवलपमेंट ह्यूमन हैज टू बी मोबिलाइज्ड. आप फैक्ट्री में जाओगे, लेबर जाएगा फैक्ट्री में, तभी तो टेक्नोलॉजी बनेगी. तो वहां से क्या हो रहा है, वो सब चेंजेज आ रहे हैं. अब ऐसे ही अगर हम देखेंगे कि लॉ कैसे चेंज लाता है. लॉ भी तो एक पावरफुल इंस्टीट्यूशन है, सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशन है लॉ. एंड लॉ कैन ऑल्सो ब्रिंग some of the changes. So I'll give you one example. So who makes law? लॉ कौन बनाता है? पार्लियामेंट बनाती है लॉ, लेजिस्लेचर बनाती है लॉ. So when we look at law, so like this is the definition of law in polity, not in Indian society. In Indian society or any society, law is made by society, which we call customs. Then law is made by the state, which we call the law made by parliament or legislative through legislative procedure. Law is also made by the powerful people in the society. Anyone, if someone is powerful, they will say that no one will move on the street after 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. because he's powerful. He can go for violence. So he's also making law. In family, law is made by patriarchs, means parents. They make law. They make law like you have to come back to house before 10 or before 12. It's also a part of law. So we are regulated by laws. But what happened in modern society that some laws became more powerful or more equal than others, like the laws made by the state. कि अगर स्टेट ने लॉ बना दिया तो आपको तो फॉलो करना ही होगा. अगर आप फॉलो नहीं करोगे तो उस केस में क्या होगा? पनिशमेंट होगा. एंड दिस पनिशमेंट विल बी इन पब्लिक स्फेयर. घर में आप को कुछ पनिशमेंट हो गया, कोई नहीं, बाहर कोई नहीं जानता. लेकिन स्टेट जब करेगा तो पनिशमेंट होगा, एक स्पेक्टिकल होगा, एक तमाशा होगा कि आपने लॉ नहीं फॉलो किया. वो तमाशा क्यों होगा? फॉर अदर पीपल, टू डिसिप्लिन अदर पीपल टू फॉलो law, because the state has those machineries. So in Romania, like I'm talking about 1966. So in Romania, so there was a dictator, communist dictator, and Nicolae. So he made a law. He made a law and he said that abortion in Romania is now illegal. And before that, Romania has one of the most liberal abortion laws in the world. And suddenly he came and he said that no, abortion is illegal. Society has the right over the fetus. And if someone is not reproducing, it means that they are not in line with the national goals. So they made abortion illegal. And why they made abortion illegal? Because Romania's population was decreasing. And abortion was at that time one of the or only form of birth control, abortion. So he made abortion illegal to increase this population in Romania. So what happened? First thing, this Nikolai was a dictator. So he was enforcing these laws very powerfully. Dictators will very powerfully enforce laws because it provides them legitimacy to rule. They will say that other rulers were or other leaders were not enforcing law, but we are enforcing laws. But always the enforcement of law will be selective. ऐसा नहीं होगा कि आज के डेट में कि सब पे अगर लॉ एंड ऑर्डर पावरफुल होता है सब पे बराबर होगा. ग्रुप में कुछ लोग होंगे जो मेन सपोर्टर्स होंगे दिस डिक्टेटर के या गवर्नमेंट के, उन पे लॉ उस तरह से इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं होगा. सो ही मेड अबॉर्शन इलीगल एंड इवन दिस there was a department in Romanian government which will go to offices and will have pregnancy kit and will check women that they are pregnant or not. If women is not pregnant after repeated checks, then there will be a celibacy tax. Right? What happened in 1989? Suddenly, people came on the streets, protested against the dictator, and most of the protesters were teens in the age group of 13 to 20. Who were they? Those who born after abortion became illegal. And in Romania, those who were in the power with the Communist Party, so they were very rich. They were powerful. Nikolai was making palaces. Nikolai's wife was spending money for everything. And when there was this problem of hunger in Romanian society, so this dictator's wife said that people are like worm. Even if you give everything to them, they will need some more. So this was the case. In 1989, they protested, and this protest led to this execution of this dictator. And who were protesting? Those were the teens born due to this legal change. जो abortion जो हो गया, क्योंकि क्या हुआ था, 1966 में abortion illegal होता है, 1917 में population growth rate becomes double हो जाता है next year ही. तो इस केस में क्या हो गया, अचानक से protest हुआ, and this dictator was executed. But at the same time, in 1990s, crime rate was decreasing in the USA, right? Because USA was very famous for crime rates, especially the cities like New York and other cities. So crime rates were decreasing in those parts, especially in the parts of USA. So many people came and said that why these crime rates are decreasing. Because crime is not an individual phenomena. Crime is a social phenomena. So there are different kinds of crime. There are some financial crimes like burglary, theft, financial fraud. Then there are also crimes like homicide, murder. So there are different kind of crimes, and crime is a social phenomena. So crime rate started decreasing in the USA in 1990s. So many people started studying these things. Like even if you see any change, so we get various kinds of argument. Some will say that this change is due to this government's control over machinery. Some will say that this is due to economic control. जैसे यूपीएससी में लिखते हैं ना कि 10 कारण से ऐसा हो रहा है, जो आंसर जब आप लिखोगे, तो basically these scholars are putting various viewpoints, but all of these viewpoints were rejected. Like एक theory थी उस टाइम कि unemployment अगर 1% से, अगर 1% से अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट इंक्रीज होता है, तो क्राइम रेट भी 1% से इंक्रीज होगा. Means people were saying that economy is somehow related to crimes. But at that time they saw that there is an increase in 2% of unemployment, increase in unemployment, and decrease in around 26% in crime. So it means that economy is not related to crime. Crime has other ideas, other reasons. Some said that this uh, in New York, so basically they increased police staffs, police personnel, their powers, due to which the crimes are decreasing in New York. But other scholars said crimes are decreasing in California, crimes are decreasing in Hawaii. So in different parts of USA, crimes are decreasing. And they found out that in 1960s, some states made abortion legal in the USA. Like when Romanian government was making abortion illegal, at the same time USA was making abortion legal. So for New York, California, Hawaii, and Alaska. So they were making abortion legal, and in Roe versus Wade case, in the USA, Roe versus Wade case, the US Supreme Court said that abortion is legal everywhere in the USA. Why abortion is legal? So Supreme Court has this argument that maybe girl is not married, girl is in teen, and she is pregnant and she want to abort it, so it should be her right. Then maybe someone is married but they want children after some years because they think that they cannot provide a very conducive environment for children. Then some might be poor and due to which they do not want children. So therefore, this Supreme Court legalized abortion. And when, अब यहाँ से आप देखो, जब ये टीन्स, क्राइम कब करते हैं लोग? जब अपने टीन्स के लास्ट स्टेज में होते हैं, तब से क्राइम शुरू होता है. और these teens who did not abort due to this decision of the Supreme Court and various laws made by these governments. So these teens, क्यों क्या होता है, क्राइम में कौन जाएगा? जैसे प्रेगनेंसी की हम बात करते हैं, अबॉर्शन, जनरली हु गो फॉर अबॉर्शन? टीन्स, पुअर, right? They will go for this abortion or unmarried, and sometime one has all the three characteristics. One is teen, unmarried, and also poor. So they will go for abortion mostly. Now they are not giving birth to, they are conceiving but not giving birth to children. तो इसका impact क्या हुआ? Infanticide डिक्रीज हो जाएगा, जो बच्चे बॉर्न हो गए उनको अब किल नहीं किया जाएगा, इन्फेंटिसाइड कम हो गया. फिर और क्या चेंज आएगा इससे? बेबीज फॉर एडॉप्शन वो भी कम हो जाएंगे अब सोसाइटी में, क्योंकि इस केस में क्या होगा, बर्थ अगर होगा तो उसको या तो छोड़ दिया जाएगा या वो ऑर्फनेज का पार्ट होगा, और द बॉय और द चिल्ड्रन विल गो फॉर एडॉप्शन. In this case, now the children for adoptions were decreasing. And from here came the concept of this adoption of foreign babies. जो आप देखते हैं एक बहुत बड़ा फैशन स्टेटमेंट है आज के डेट में यूएस में कि दे अडॉप्ट चिल्ड्रन फ्रॉम अफ्रीका, एशिया एंड अदर कंट्रीज. So this has started due to this. And main impact was this decrease in crime. Because these teens जो born ही नहीं हुए, जो इस केस में born होते, so law can also create many changes in society. So when we look at history, जैसे इंडिया के बारे में हम बात करते हैं, आप बार बार सुनते हो, लोग क्या बोलते हैं कि it should be, the country should be run on the basis of Indian Constitution. What is Indian Constitution? It's a legal document. It's a legal basis, legal philosophy on which the country should move forward. So it means that law can also impact society in the same way technology has impacted our worldview. And why law becomes so much powerful? Because law can also regulate technology. Law can regulate economy. आप economy देखो, 1991 we got this liberalization, we opened our market, privatization की शुरुआत होती है. उसके बाद इंडियन सोसाइटी में देखो कितने चेंज आ गए. फॉर्म ऑफ म्यूजिक, अब जो है, सो आज के डेट में क्या हो रहा है, वी आर ऑल्सो लिसनिंग टू मेनी फॉर्म्स ऑफ म्यूजिक एंड मेनी पीपल आर लिसनिंग which are produced in other parts of the world. Social movement changed. Women's movement became feminist movement. Farmers movement changed. So everything is changing after globalization because corporate has now more power. तो उसका नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट कहाँ होगा? फार्मर सुसाइड इंक्रीज होंगे वहाँ पे. आप जो सोशल एक्सक्लूजन इंक्रीज हो जाएगा. सो इफ यू लुक एट समवन बेगिंग ऑन द स्ट्रीट, सो यू हैव दिस आइडिया, यार ये काम क्यों नहीं करता? But this is not the, this is commonsensical thinking that he is not ready to work. There are many people who are ready to work, but they are not finding jobs. So negative impact भी आएंगे और positive impact भी आएंगे. Women got the opportunity to get education, even higher education, but they are getting education mostly in those sectors which are seen better for women. And who decides this? Men of our society decide. So a new kind of job, pink collar jobs were created. Pink collar jobs like the jobs of nurses, receptionist, teacher in primary school. So like chef will be generally the male person, but cooking किनकी जिम्मेदारी होगी? Women की होगी. So everything will impact these ideas. So now we'll look into the syllabus of post-independence, then um, Indian society and social justice. So when we talk about this syllabus of post-independence India, so in post-independence India, UPSC writes post-independence consolidation and reorganization of within the country. So this is the syllabus. So it means that everything which happened in the after the independence of India are part of our post-independence syllabus. But somehow UPSC is not asking many questions on post-independence. And why they are not asking? Because they are mixing Indian society and post-independence. So like when they will talk about women's movement, so they are asking you to provide some kind of history, like how women's movement have evolved in India. Then you will look into society aspect. कि वुमेन्स मूवमेंट ने कास्ट पे क्या इम्पैक्ट कर रहे हैं, वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट पे क्या इम्पैक्ट हो रहा है, हाउ फैमिली इज चेंजिंग ड्यू टू द एम्पावरमेंट ऑफ वुमेन. तो उस तरह से. So first topic that we'll look into this post-independence India is partition. So though India got independence, but it was divided into two parts, India and Pakistan. At that time, Pakistan had two parts, East and West Pakistan. Now the East part is Bangladesh. But partition also led to one of the biggest genocides of human history, this partition. So we'll look into what were the main reasons for partition, how partition impacted society, जैसे communal nature, this communalism कितना powerful हो गया society में partition के कारण. So we'll look into partition. Then we'll also talk about this integration of states. So Indian state was fragmented. So there were princely states, there were other kinds of regions. So how these became part of India or what we today call India. Then we'll also look into some of the disputes in Kashmir, then in Goa, Pondicherry, तो ये सब जो थे, Hyderabad. So we'll look into these disputes also at that time, how these disputes came and how Indian leaders look into these disputes to create a unified India. Then reorganization of states. So states were earlier created and the nationalist leaders had this idea that states should not be created on the basis of language. क्यों लैंग्वेज के बेसिस पे हम क्रिएट करेंगे तो रीजनलिज्म होगा. देयर कैन बी बाल्कनाइजेशन. इंडिया माइट डिवाइड इनटू डिफरेंट पार्ट्स. So, but people protested and they said that like they are not getting their rights. They are not getting their rights due to this kind of organization of states. So they demanded states based on linguistic ideas. So various committees came, a state reorganization committee. So this will be also dealt in this part of our syllabus. Then Indian Constitution, how Indian Constitution was made, what is its basic philosophy, what is the history of including these ideas, like right to equality. Article 17, abolition of untouchability. वो ऐसा क्यों हुआ उस टाइम, उस स्पेसिफिक पीरियड में. Official language, debates about official languages and others, we'll look into those ideas also. Then we'll also compare Indian Constitution with other parts, other constitution of the world, and how Indian Constitution is different, not in the polity sense, but in the historical sense. Then land reforms. It was one of the biggest promises of Indian leaders that there will be land reform, there will be abolition of zamindari. Nehru was one of the forefront leaders of this idea. So what is land reform? So when we look at land reform, then we'll see that generally land reform is talked about. क्या होता है land reform? But what is the meaning of land reform? Why we do go for land reform? Like when we abolish zamindari, no, like zamindars were owner of the land. So most of the land in an area will be of zamindar. So he said that I will abolish zamindari. So what is the rationale of abolishing zamindari? Equality. But it was only one part, equality. Second part was technological changes in agriculture, which we saw in the Green Revolution phase. So Green Revolution is also part of land reform. Because first thing was, first we'll redistribute lands to those who are landless. So surplus land from people will be taken and it will be redistributed. This was the first part. Second phase of land reform was technological intervention in agriculture. हमने क्या देखा? Green Revolution देखा. So we'll look into this idea of land reform. Then we'll also see why land reform was successful in some areas and not successful in other areas. And what were the impacts of land reform, like नक्सलवारी मूवमेंट. उसमें क्या हुआ कि लैंड तो आपको दे दिया गया, लेकिन जब आप लैंड पे गए खेती करने, सो जमींदार डिड नॉट अलाउ यू टू कल्टीवेट द लैंड. सो पेपर आपके नाम से है, लेकिन उसमें पावर कौन दिखा रहा है? जमींदार दिखा रहा है. एंड दिस कन्वर्टेड इनटू ए वेरी पावरफुल मूवमेंट, नक्सलाइट मूवमेंट. Then developmental planning क्या होता है? What is developmental planning? Why developmental planning was adopted in India? तो उन सब आइडियाज को हम देखेंगे. ट्राइबल कंसोलिडेशन, like Britishers had a very different policy about tribals. They used to keep them in isolation. They say revolt now. So what was the post-independence tribal policy? We look into this idea also. Then this idea, foreign policy. So when India became independent, it had to somehow create a new paradigm of foreign policy. Why new paradigm of foreign policy? Earlier, the foreign policy was led by colonial power, British government. Now they had to create some kind of foreign policy where they will not be colonized again. It was one of the main bases because these were weak countries, recently independent countries. So India went for new kind of foreign policy. So we look into non-alignment movement. Then we'll also talk about various other roles of India in foreign policy, like India's role in Korean War, India's role in Vietnam War, then how Indian foreign policy looked at its neighbors like Nepal, Bhutan, other countries, India's foreign policy in Bangladesh, this liberation war of Bangladesh. So we'll also look into these historical ideas. Then green revolution and other revolution in food and dairy sectors. So like white revolution, अमूल का पूरा आइडिया है वो सारा हम इसमें with green revolutions will also look into these parts. Then how industrialization started in India? Because it was Nehru's idea. वो क्या बोलता था कि इंडिया को इंडस्ट्रियल बनाना है. वो डैम्स को कैसे देखता था? टेम्पल्स की तरह देखता था, बिग डैम्स को. So what was the policy of industrialization? Like was industrialization done for the benefits of individuals or the masses, or it was done for some other purposes? So we look into industrialization. How industrialization? इसमें हम देखेंगे trade union. Then industrialization means, what is the meaning of industrialization? And mass production. When we go for mass production, we call anything, if you are doing at a very high rate, then people say that this like industrial kind of work. So means production capacity को आप अचानक से increase करते हो. So how trade union, so industrialization, when we look at industrialization in India, then we look at this plantation agriculture. That's also part of industrialization. Then mining, how mining were done. फिर हम जो है textiles and other heavy जो ये goods हैं like steel, so we'll look into those ideas also in the industrialization of India. Then we'll look into a very famous phase of Indian democratic system, democratic polity, that is the phase of emergency. And किसने लाया था emergency? Indira Gandhi. So this phase of emergency, it's also called India's first dictatorship. So recently a book was published. Its name is India's first dictatorship. So we'll look into emergency. What was problematic in emergency? How emergency can counter our efforts for democratization? And why emergency was proclaimed at that time? So we look into those ideas also, but we look into emergency from not from polity perspective, from history perspective. कि स्टेट का मीनिंग क्या होता है, गवर्नमेंट क्या होता है, किस तरह से डेमोक्रेसी में वो फंक्शन करते हैं. सो विल लुक इनटू दोज आइडियाज. सो इमरजेंसी. Then changes in democratic politics of India means like earlier we had one party dominance, that was the dominance of Congress. Then their dominance started declining. Emergency came. Then regional parties started emerging. और regional parties किस बेस पे होते हैं? They come, they develop on the basis of primordial loyalty, like caste, like region, language. तो इन सब के बेसिस पे होते हैं regional party. So like region के बेसिस पे शिवसेना, is it? कास्ट के बेसिस पे समाजवादी पार्टी इन यूपी, बहुजन समाजवादी पार्टी. So we look into these ideas, how their dominance came, and again we move for this one party dominance. Like in current time, we are also seeing one party dominance. तो one party dominance के घाटे क्या हैं? One party dominance के फायदे क्या हैं? And how it impacts democracy. Democracy means power to people. So how the power to people is increasing or decreasing. So we look into those ideas. Then we have also one more thing, social movement. So we'll look into environmental movement, farmers movement, women's movement. So different kind of movements. Like how women's movement changed, how LGBTQ issues became part of women's movement. वो कैसे हो रहा है ग्लोबलाइजेशन के बाद. So we look into those ideas also. And these things are also part of our Indian society syllabus. उसमें भी पढ़ना है तो हम लोग एक साथ इन चीज आइडियाज को देखेंगे. हिस्ट्री, then we look into society. Then what is communalism? So what is communalism? No, that is communism. This is communalism. Hmm. It's about religion uh, and why they are fighting. Like suppose I am fighting with, or five of my friends are fighting with five other people who are from different religion, but it will not be called communal violence. क्यों हो सकता है वो किसी और कारण. Not religion. They are looking at individuals and saying that the fundamental distinction between two individuals or two groups are created by religion. Means communalism is about collective punishment. कि आपका religion खराब है तो हम collective will punish everyone. So this is the idea of communalism. So even someone has very good behavior, he is following all the laws and all the rules, but he will also be punished, he will also be lynched or killed because he is from that religion. So it's mainly about collective punishment. However, this idea of collective punishment is changing in contemporary times. And how it is changing? आज के डेट में लिंचिंग होगी, people will make video, then they will upload it on the website. So they do not have the fear of law. So it means this idea of impunity. Then that will not be called communalism. But when this distinction is made on the basis of religion, so like what I said, कि कॉलेज में मेरी फाइट होगी पांच लोगों से, पांच लड़के से, हो सकता है उधर रिलीजन के लिए फाइट किस बात पे, कॉलेज किस यू पे हुई, so it will not be called communal violence. Communalism means this distinction is made and then they will fight. And communal right is just one part of communalism. Hate speeches, this is also part of communalism. Like when people are targeting other community and making hate speeches, that's also communalism. Structural violence, जो आप लोग देखे होंगे, people were posting on Twitter and Facebook that they booked Uber and the driver was from some other community, so they cancelled it. It's also communal violence, communalism, बिकॉज इट्स कॉल्ड स्ट्रक्चरल वायलेंस. कि आप सोसाइटी में एक ग्रुप को बोल रहे हैं कि हम तुमसे कुछ नहीं खरीदेंगे, हम इस दुकान को बाइकआउट करते हैं, सोशल बाइकआउट करते हैं. दैट्स ऑल्सो पार्ट ऑफ कम्युनलिज्म. सो वी लुक इन टू ब्रॉडर पिक्चर ऑफ कम्युनलिज्म एंड हाउ कम्युनलिज्म मैनिफेस्ट इन आवर एवरीडे लाइफ. तो उसको भी हम देखेंगे. देन दिस आइडिया ऑफ रीजनलिज्म स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम this integration of states to organization of states, linguistic basis, and then various other forms of regionalism, like son of the soil movement. So what is son of the soil movement? But no, he's people are saying that suppose I am from Delhi, so I will say that I have the first right over the resources of Delhi. हाँ, जो भी रिसोर्सेज हैं, तो सोसाइटी में कोई भी प्रॉब्लम होगी तो वो क्या बोलेंगे, माइग्रेंट्स आर डूइंग इट. मीन्स it's correct. So when we are talking about this impact of technology, and I said that we are living at extremes. We do not look for any other thing that that I don't believe. So this is the idea of extreme. So if I say that this is night, it means it's night. So this is the idea of extreme. So you will not negotiate. Extreme का idea वही है. And when people will be at extremes, then there will be these kind of things will be happening. Communalism increase होगा, regionalism increase होगा. Then people will make stereotypes because they have not met anyone from that state, or they met one person and he was not a good person. तो उससे उसने क्या किया, एक स्टीरियोटाइप बना लिया. तो इंट्रैक्शन कम हो रहे हैं. तो आपका क्या होगा? कम्युनल वायलेंस इंक्रीज होगा, रीजनलिज्म इंक्रीज होगा. In any society, if you look at any society of the world, if there is rise of ethnic nationalism means nationalism based on some primordial idea, some idea of blood. So it can be religion, it can be language, it can be anything. The status of marginalized has declined. So the status of, like, if India will become a India will convert into a ethnic nationalist country, the status of marginalized means the status of women will decline, because all primordial ideas talk about imprisonment of women or domestication of women. So a status of women will decline, a status of Dalits will decline, a status of marginalized means a status of minorities will decline. There will be tribals decline. So there will be more problems, more chaos in society. So regionalism, then we'll look into this idea, LPG reform. So post-independence in Indian history has three phases. First start in 1947, and it moves till emergency, proclamation of emergency. After this, second phase start from emergency to LPG reforms, 1991. And we are living in contemporary phase, post LPG, in globalization phase. So whenever you see any question and they talk about contemporary development, it means development after LPG, after globalization के बाद जो development हुए हम उसकी बात करेंगे. And so this is our post independence. So what is in post independence syllabus? So basically this is post independence. We'll talk about economy in post independence India. Economy means industrialization. Then economy will also talk about various forms of economic reforms. We'll talk about developmental planning, how this idea of planning converted to Niti Aayog, why these changes were made, what were the rationale. All will come in part of this economy. Other kind of economic thing, politics, emergency, one party dominance, regional parties. Then rise of regional parties. In politics also we'll talk about religious revivalism, polarization, religious polarization, and communalism. So when we talk about this one party dominance, mainly the dominance of the Indian National Congress, then we'll say that, also read about vote bank politics, how Congress party was functioning on the idea of vote bank. Then regional parties came, so caste-based politics started. Then we'll come to this religious revivalism post-Babri, and we have this politics on the basis of religion. Religion is becoming the most powerful instrument of our politics. So we'll read about it in this idea. In social, impacts on women, tribals, Dalits, and so on. So we'll look at these impacts. Then we'll also look at impacts of economy, economic changes, and political changes. Because these things are also like Green Revolution, how Green Revolution impacted in Indian society. So we look at the impact on, like, the system of caste, the system of new kind of economy in agriculture, new kind of consumption patterns, and how new roles for women. So after Green Revolution, women were domesticated, means they were not allowed to work outside. And before this Green Revolution, women were workers. Workers means they were big part of this agriculture. In the same way, Green Revolution was happening in some part, and in other parts, feminization of agriculture was happening. So means because agriculture is one of the least productive sector of our economy, and when therefore it was given to women because men were leaving it. So it's also an impact of, also manifestation of patriarchy. So we look about these ideas. Then in foreign policy, we'll talk about various wars that India fought and various uh, declarations, various agreements that India signed, and we'll have a special focus on non-alignment movement. So this is part of our post-independence syllabus. So all economy, politics, society, and foreign policy will be part of it. In the same way, we will look into Indian society syllabus. So Ubik has this question. So regionalism can affect our society in the positive and negative manner, but how it can affect in the positive manner. So when we look at this idea of regionalism, so especially regionalism with respect to linguistic reorganization of states, so it had many positive effects. So they became competitive in their society to so that linguistic states can provide better welfare. So if you look at the status of weaker sections in Tamil Nadu or other states which were created on the linguistic basis, they are better than other places in India. Their economic development, redistribution patterns, everything is better. And it's mostly due to those regionalist movement in India. And regionalism can also be seen as positive because it counters this this centralization of power by the Indian government. So federal powers come together and they protest against central government. So it's also against this centralization of power. So regionalism can have many positive impacts. So in this part, Indian society, so we have a syllabus like this, salient features of Indian society. So it means everything about Indian society, like system of caste, Indian system of religion, family, kinship, jitna sab kuch hai, feature of, so salient features of Indian society, everything will be part of this topic. Means because every society is different. Every so, क्या होता है individuals? Individuals are produced by society. Individuals do not create society. Society is more than the sum of the individuals. So, like I come from different social background from you, so I will be a different individual also. Like my food choices will be different, my dress choices will be different, even my color preference can be different. Even my idea about religion will be very different. So, society creates individuals. Individuals do not create society. So, we'll read about all the salient features of Indian society. Diversity of India. So, what is the difference between these three terms? Diversity, multiculturalism, and pluralism. Right? We use all three terms to describe India. So, what is the difference between these three terms? Hmm. And the diversity. Hmm. Hmm. So it also means diversity, like there are different. Huh, okay, and pluralism. So these three terms are different. Diversity means the presence of different cultural elements. But like you are traveling in a bus, you saw people wearing clothes from very different culture, or you saw diversity of men and women and other genders. So it means that the bus is diverse. Diversity does not entail that there is interaction between these groups. When we move to the level of interaction, then these two concepts come, multiculturalism and pluralism. Multiculturalism means in that same bus, I do not see, I will tolerate anyone's culture. Means I see that they also have the same right to follow their own culture and live their life. Means I am tolerating, but tolerating is negative. हम आपको tolerate करें तो इसका मतलब क्या है कि means I have the power to break your cultural ideas, but I am tolerating it because I am a multicultural person. So it's based on very negative idea. No, it's multiculturalism is based on tolerance, so it's not seen as very positive term. And why it's not seen as very positive term? Because multiculturalism can lead to when people will say that they will not tolerate these things, like see recent hijab controversy or any other controversy. So then multiculturalism can be in problem because people are interacting not with this constructive interaction नहीं हो रहा है वहां पे है कि आपका भी राइट है कि आप अपने कल्चर को फॉलो कर सकते हो. Pluralism is about constructive dialogues between these diversities. So like suppose I will go and ask some women, if I see them in hijab or burqa, I will try to understand the rationale behind it. I'll try to look for this idea, is it the choice of that person or is it enforced on her? It means I'm going for constructive dialogue. She can also ask me about many ideas of my society which she feels that those ideas are regressive. Means we are in constructive dialogue. I am not forcing her to change her cultural identity. But in this dialogue process, there will be transformation of her also, or transformation of me also. So this is called pluralism. It's a very utopian stage, this plural idea, pluralism. So it's about constructive dialogue. So dialogues can be of two types: destructive dialogue and constructive dialogue. Destructive dialogue means communal riot. People are interacting, but they are interacting in violent way. So it is leading to destruction. तो ये हो गया destructive dialogue. Constructive dialogue, I will try to look for, like suppose I saw something and I did not feel that, I felt that this is a very regressive idea. So I will try to check my ideas also. So I will go to that community, those people, and ask them what is the rationale behind this idea. Why are you following this idea? I am not forcing them to change their cultural identity, but I am in a dialogue. So they will say that these are the rationales. I will counter many of those rationales. In the same way, they will also will come in constructive dialogue with my society. Then a society will be created which will be progressive, and that society is called plural society. People will not go for violence if they see something, because tolerance का idea नहीं है. टॉलरेंस में क्या है कि अभी हम टॉलरेट नहीं करेंगे तो वायलेंट हो गया ना, वायलेंस हो गया. इस केस में क्या होगा कि हम कंटिन्यूअस डायलॉग में होंगे, तो सोसाइटी सिंक्रेटिक कल्चर क्रिएट होगा. मीन्स लाइक कल्चर, सिंक्रेटिक कल्चर कैसे क्रिएट होगा? लैंग्वेज चेंज होगा. मेनी वर्ड्स फ्रॉम अदर कल्चर विल बिकेम पार्ट ऑफ आवर लैंग्वेज. लाइक सी द केस ऑफ इंडियन लैंग्वेजेस. So borrowed words are taken from Indian languages also, and from the languages outside. Like Persian का influence देखो कितना अधिक है. So it's pluralism. No, it will be used in a positive way, and that's why it's called utopian, because none of the society in the world are plural. They all are multicultural. तो इसीलिए क्या होता है, कुछ कुछ समय के बाद आप वायलेंस देखते हैं. Either they are multicultural, or some societies are diverse because minority groups or minority cultural groups are living in ghettos. So वहाँ पे क्या है, डाइवर्सिटी है लेकिन इंटरेक्शन नहीं है उस तरह का. So we'll read about what are the diversity, like geographical diversity. उसका क्या impact है society पे? Biological diversity. So different kind of diversities we'll look into those ideas. Then then we'll also read about caste system here. So someone asks you that what is the one thing that differentiates Indian society from other societies of the world, or Hindu society from the other societies of the world? That is the system of caste. And there was so much interaction between communities in India that you'll see that other communities, like Muslims, also have the system of caste. Christian also follows the system of caste. Like recently, the Syrian Christian church told that they have Brahmin ancestry. It means they are also following this idea of caste. So, so this is a unique phenomenon. This is not followed in Muslims also. When they go for marriage, they look for these ideas of caste. So if you'll go to other part of the world, you will not find the system of. No, there will be different kind of differentiation, but this idea of caste is not prevalent outside South Asia, not India, Indian subcontinent. So India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, they will follow the system of caste. So so this system of caste is one of the main feature or one of the salient features of Indian society, which differentiates it from other societies of the world. Because caste is based on this idea of ritual hierarchy. Caste is not a secular idea, it's a religious idea. Like Dr. Ambedkar says, that if you look at Hindu, you cannot find any Hindu in the world who does not belong to any caste. So every Hindu will be part of some caste. So it means what is Hinduism और caste जो है वो एक जैसे है. उनके critique भी है इस idea के बहुत सारे, but somehow these ideas are related. So we look into caste system. When we look into caste system, so caste system started as a system of ritual hierarchy. Means the four Varnas, every Varna will have, like there will be caste, then there will be different caste. समझ रहे ना, एक कास्ट के अंदर बहुत सारे कास्ट होंगे. How can we develop with the mentality of those people who are not multiculturalism, who are against with the culture of others? So this development of multiculturalism is a very long process. So you can break multiculturalism. So that's why many people say that uh, if some state has experimented with economic system of a country or of a society, and suppose that person failed in his idea, economy can be revived in a 20-year or 30-year or 40-year. But if someone has played with the idea of social fabric, then it will take mm, hundreds of years and many wars and riots. बिकॉज सोशल फैब्रिक क्या होता है, बहुत लंबे समय के बाद, बहुत लंबे इंट्रैक्शन के बाद क्रिएट होता है. आप देखो फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल, this idea of communalism emerging there in British India, and see the impact of communalism in contemporary times. Like communalism became a part of everydayness. You go to, you read newspaper, you go on social media website, you watch films. Films are also promoted in this fashion of communalism because it's very easy to target people, like they are my buyers and they will consume our product. So this communal idea is becoming part of market also. It's part of our society and it's politics ka to hai. So it has many impacts, like we have seen any kind of these primordial idea अगर powerful होगा तो उसके अलग अलग impact होंगे. But how to make our society multiculturalism? There will write in UPSC about government programs like Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat. Then you can also talk about sensitization of individuals, especially better socialization of children. कि वो सब जो चीज़ें हैं उस पर फोकस करना हो. देन दिस कंट्रोल ओवर मीडिया, अब मीडिया देखो कितने किस तरह से दिखाते हैं. सो ऑल दीज थिंग्स आर नेसेसरी. हाँ, you are wrong because you are not ready to take a stand. So ideology means taking a stand. So or you look at something from a perspective, but many people in contemporary times are not part of these ideological camps. They are called postmodernist. So they cross this idea of modernism. But the problem with this idea that then you cannot be part of emancipation also. So that's the problem. Like then sometimes you'll be supporting this group, sometimes you'll be supporting that group. So basically the idea in politics is you are wasting your energy, like Indian National Congress. No, you can anyone can be critique. This is thing about modernity, that we are reflective of ourselves also, self-reflective, and at the same time we are reflective of other people's thought also. तो वो कोई क्रिटिक तो हर किसी का क्रिटिक होगा, तो उसमें वो नहीं. Then we'll look into this idea of patriarchy through this role of women and women's organization. We'll see how this notion of gender was constructed. then differentiated, and then domesticated. So everything happened uh, from the beginning of our history. If you leave some period, so from the beginning of our history, because sexual division of labor is the oldest form of division of labor. So this household activity and outside activity. So this sexual division of labor, women will cook and men will do the productive activity. Women कहाँ पे हो गई? Reproductive activity and household, and men went to productive activity. So men got the power at that time. That power created patriarchy. And patriarchy was so powerful, even today it's so powerful, that when we think of gender, we think of only two genders, male and female. And we say other genders are deviant. But that idea, this binary idea of gender is wrong. Now we talk about gender in non-binary sense. So, कितने gender हैं अभी? नहीं, there can be multiple genders, male, female, transgender, and others who do not see themselves as part of any of these three. So there can be multiple genders, and we do not believe in this binary conception, because this non-binary conception give every individual a choice to to create some new gender if he or she is not uh, locating able to locate in these ideas, these categories, because these categories are very powerful. So when you are part of some category, तो जितने भी social structure हैं वो आपके साथ उसी तरह behave करेंगे. So therefore, उसको भी हमको classification में we should give choices where people who do not want to be part of this traditional system of gender can be part of, can create new, or can be part of other genders. So we'll read about this idea of patriarchy, then women's movement, uh, और women's movement में post independence, और हम लोग साथ करेंगे दोनों को. And we'll look at history of women's movement and also how issues of women's movement are changing. Like earlier, they were asking for equality of wages, inheritance rights. So different kind of, they were talking about different kind of material benefits. Now they are talking about various non-material things. Like they are talking about stalking. They are talking about online trolling. They are talking about equality, equality in every sphere. And they are not demanding it. They are saying that equality is their birthright. So if you are not giving us equality, then we'll fight for it. So it's not a demand. It's the assumption from where women's movement now start. So we'll look into Me Too movement, how Me Too movement came. What are the negatives of Me Too movement? Like we read all the positives of Me Too movement, but one of the main negatives of Me Too movement. So most of the people who were part of this Me Too movement were independent, part of middle class or upper middle class, and they had economic capacity to sustain in society, and also they had this socio-cultural capital कि वहाँ पे वो टैबू की तरह नहीं देखा जाएगा. So they can live in these societies, but they took all the media, all the resources. So, but rural patriarchy is more problematic, it's more torturous. तो लोगों का वहाँ से जो है वो चला गया, तो हम उसको भी देखेंगे इसमें. Then population and associated issues. So we'll look into these idea. What is demography? Then we'll talk about this why people go for this sex selective abortions or female infanticides. Then use of contraceptives, why these things are seen as taboo. Then status of minorities women, like, so if you look at this reproductive health of minority women, so upper class Muslims have very good reproductive health. Upper class Muslim women have very good reproductive health, but lower class Muslim women have very bad reproductive health, because first thing, this idea of sterilization वो भी वहाँ पे बैंड है. सेकेंड, कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव्स भी बैंड है. सो वहाँ पे जो है, सो वहाँ पे हेल्थ में एक गैप दिखता है, बिग गैप. That's called dowry. But that's dowry. Dowry. No, no. I tell you, there are two concepts. groom price and dowry. Do- d- no, 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 no. I'm answering the same question. So, groom price means the price paid to the groom's family at the time of marriage. Dowry means when the this idea of marriage is started till the death of the girl, every gift that the family of the women gave to, like her father-in-law's family. So that's dowry. So any gift, because when these gifts become part of ritual, then it becomes mandatory. You do not have choice not to give gifts. It is also linked with status. कि जैसे my uncle came and gave me very bad gift, तो उनका status मेरे family में नीचे चला जाएगा. Also choice भी नहीं है. And if there is anything regressive as part of our culture, those things should be changed. Like Sabrimala, women should get entry. This idea of uh, this uh, this idea of banning women also creates a taboo about menstruating women. Hmm. Hmm. So, so there is, if you want to read about it, there is a book by Nivedita Menon. She asked a simple question: if men were menstruating, those would have been the best days when men should go for worship to temples. So it's a part of patriarchy. It's a no, it's not about idol. It's about ha ha. Hmm. Ha. Ha. Because one kind of discrimination will reproduce other forms of discriminations. So that becomes problematic. So suppose culture gives you choice at the same time, so you can be a part of, like, it should be the freedom. Like I have to follow religious codes literally, huh? But at the same time, it should not be made a universal rule that every woman or girl will have to follow those rules. So suppose someone is such a devotee, so she should not go to this temple, but other can go to. When you make a rule, आप रूल में क्या बोलते हैं कि वुमेन जा सकते हैं, तो जिनको जाना है उनको जाने दो. आप गॉड से थोड़ी पावरफुल हो. इफ यू बिलीव इन द आइडिया ऑफ गॉड, then Lord Appa is the most powerful. Maybe he thinks that no, women and men, everyone should come and visit him. So ये problem हो जाता है उसमें. हाँ. People, there should be choice, agency of every individual. हाँ. Then we'll look into this idea of population associated issue, after which we'll also look into what are the problems of aging. So, like when we're talking about this decreasing crime rates in the USA, so many scholars said that since now there is a very high percentage of elderly population, and therefore there is low crime rate. लेकिन उन्होंने देखा कि बाकी जगह जहाँ पे elderly नहीं भी हैं वहाँ पे भी crime rate था. So we'll also talk about aging, what are the problems of aging, how society has transformed with respect to older people, like how the home that an individual creates, he cannot become a part of that home after certain years of age, after 70, because he needs to be taken care of. He needs to be he needs to have some kind of support system. तो उनको कहाँ हम भेज देते हैं, जो ओल्ड एज हैं वहाँ पे हम भेजने लगे हैं. तो उसके क्या इम्पैक्ट्स होते हैं, हाउ दे find community there, what are the negative impacts, what are the positive impacts. We'll also look into those ideas. Then poverty and developmental issues. So what is poverty? So in economics, you'll read about poverty. In sociology, we read poverty from different perspective. There can be this idea of absolute and relative. Then poverty of knowledge. So I do not have knowledge like digital technology. I do not have the knowledge of digital technology. So it will also impact my life chances. So this is poverty of knowledge. So different kind of poverty will study, which we see in our society. And many of these poverties are coming from our consciousness, our subjectivity. Then effect of globalization on Indian society, how caste system changed in India. So earlier caste system क्या था? Ritual hierarchy का system था, उस पे हम उसको देखते थे. अब caste system क्या हो? Caste system became identity. Identity in the sense you can get votes on the basis of caste, you'll get welfare benefits from the state on the basis of caste. So caste system became a part of identity. It's not functioning in the ritual sphere. अब उतना अधिक रोल वहां नहीं रह गया. रोल अधिक कहाँ है? सेक्युलर स्फेयर में, इन पॉलिटिक्स, इन बिजनेस, तो इन सब में अधिक है. सो विल टॉक अबाउट दिस ऑन वुमेन पे क्या इम्पैक्ट हुआ ग्लोबलाइजेशन का, ओल्डर एज पे क्या हुआ. सो ऑल द टॉपिक जितने हमने पढ़े हैं सारे को हम क्या करेंगे इसमें ग्लोबलाइजेशन में विल लुक इनटू द इम्पैक्ट्स. देन दिस आइडिया ऑफ सोशल एम्पावरमेंट. व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ टर्म एम्पावरमेंट? Give them choice. So if someone is able to make choices, मतलब लाइक देखो दुनिया में क्या होता है, हर किसी को पता होता है उस टाइम कि सही क्या है गलत क्या है. बट इवन इफ दैट पर्सन बिलीव्स दैट दिस इज राइट फॉर हिम और हर, the society will not allow him to go for that decision. Hmm. 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 हाँ. This is called dehumanizing process. Like basically what we do, we dehumanize certain groups, like Muslims. So what people say, their areas are very dirty, they are not hygienic. But if you visit India, places in India, all areas are same. वही गंदे वैसे ही होंगे. Then they will talk about smells. Like in recently, it was the case in Gujarat. So, like the same kind of smell are in Delhi because people are eating non-vegetarian food. Then they do not have problems. तो वहाँ पे क्या होता है ना कि ये डिह्यूमनाइजेशन प्रोसेस है कि हम ये उनको ये कर देते हैं ये ह्यूमन की तरह है ही नहीं. And it is our duty to make them humans, like Britishers did with us, white man's burden, to civilize us. So it's the same kind of process. So this basically what this dehumanization process does, it removes the idea of dignity. तो आप क्या देखते हो इंडिया में, डिग्निटी ऑफ लेबर होती है. कास्ट के अंदर भी डिग्निटी के बहुत सारे कास्ट में आइडिया नहीं है, डिग्निटी दिया नहीं जाता उनको डिग्निटी. वुमेन के केस में आप देखो डिग्निटी कितनी प्रॉब्लम है. सारे माइनॉरिटीज उनके साथ भी उनको डिग्निटी नहीं मिलता है. आप लोगों को ऑक्यूपेशन से ही जज करते हो, कहाँ से आता है ये? कास्ट से आता है, कास्ट एंड ऑक्यूपेशन. जब आप ये करते हो, खाना खाते हो, तो आप ये देखते हो कि नॉन वेज उस टेबल पे ही नहीं होना चाहिए. दिस इज ऑल्सो फ्रॉम द आइडिया ऑफ कास्ट बेस्ड डिस्क्रिमिनेशन, प्योरिटी एंड पोल्यूशन का आइडिया. So we'll learn about all these things because these ideas are somehow structured. So like everyone everyone in this part of world or all parts of the world are patriarchal because patriarchy is in our unconscious. Means we are socialized into patriarchal systems. तो आप क्या देखते हो कि बड़े बड़े लोग जो हैं जो प्रोग्रेसिव बनते हैं, दे ऑल्सो मेक पेट्रियार्कल स्टेटमेंट्स मेनी टाइम, लाइक रिसेंट स्टेटमेंट बाय शशि थरूर. तो वो क्या होगा कि पेट्रियार्की क्या हमारे अनकॉन्शियस में है. सो एवरी वन कैन बिहेव इन दिस मैनर. तो उसको जो है सो हम लोग इसमें सोशल एम्पावरमेंट. देन विल लुक इनटू दिस आइडिया ऑफ कम्युनलिज्म, regionalism and secularism. So in secularism, we'll look into different models of secularism. Like France had a very different model of secularism. USA had other model of secularism. India has different model of secularism. So we'll read about 4 models of secularism: French, American, Indian, and Chinese model of secularism. So what is Chinese model of secularism? Religious goals has to be in sync with the national goals. So they are changing, amending Quran so that the goals of Quran will be in sync with the goals of the communist state of China. So no, there are different models of in India. The like will have all religions at same distance. Means if you give something to someone, then we'll give to others also. And at the same time, Indian secularism talks about equity of religions. So minority religions are given more rights. so that they can compete with majority religions, and at the same time majority religions will not be able to show dominance. So Indian secularism is different. French secularism में क्या है? You cannot show religious symbols in public sphere. No, state तो है ही, but even you cannot go with religious practice in public sphere. टर्की ऑल्सो फॉलोड द सेम मॉडल. तो वहाँ पे क्या हुआ था, जो अगर आपको हैट पहनना है, मॉडर्न मैन दिखना है, आप अगर रिलीजियस बियर्ड और ये सब रखते हैं तो पुलिस वहाँ आपको फाइन भी करेगी और काट देती थी. रिसेंटली इन कजाकिस्तान द सेम थिंग वाज हैपनिंग. So there are different models of secularism. So we'll look into those models of secularism. We'll see positives and negatives of those models of secularism. Every model of secularism has some positive. देखो इंडियन मॉडल ऑफ सेकुलरिज्म क्या हो रहा है कि जो रिलीजियस बेस्ड नेशनलिज्म है वो पावरफुल हो रहा है. दिस मीन्स इंडियन नेशनल नोशन ऑफ सेकुलरिज्म इज ऑल्सो फेलिंग. तो उन सब चीजों को देखेंगे. After this, we'll come to this paper too. So whatever will read from read in post-independence or Indian society, we'll see how to solve these problems, and especially from the perspective of state. So when we say social justice, it means state will provide some kind of justice. It's the duty of the state because there is a social contract between me as an individual and the state. That state will protect me not only from this crime or law and order protection, but also economic protection. Like in the case of second COVID wave, when people were not getting oxygen cylinders. So what newspapers were writing? The absence of the state means state is absent. When a state will not give me protection, I have every right to question state and go also go against the state. जो होते हैं ना रिवॉल्यूशंस होते हैं, क्यों होते हैं? क्योंकि स्टेट अपने जो भी उनके जो सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का पार्ट है उसको फॉलो नहीं कर रहे हैं. So we'll look from the perspective of the state and how social justice can be done. And when we talk about social justice, so first is welfare schemes. So state क्या करेगी? Welfare schemes देगी. So we'll talk about welfare schemes, and welfare schemes में हम देखेंगे especially for vulnerable sections of the population by the center and states, and performance of these schemes also, like how these schemes are performing, like MG Narega. So has MG Narega benefited rural population? तो अगर बेनिफिट किया तो कैसे क्या बेनिफिट किया हम देखेंगे. वहां पे उनका परचेजिंग पावर में इंक्रीज, हैज इट इंक्रीज. कास्ट बेस्ड अगर डिस्क्रिमिनेशन है, हैज इट डिक्रीज्ड. माइग्रेशन पैटर्न पे इम्पैक्ट आया या नहीं, वो भी हम उसको देखेंगे कि क्योंकि अगर एमजी नरेगा सक्सेसफुल है, माइग्रेशन कम होना चाहिए. So we'll look into the impacts of these programs and policy. We'll have both positives and negatives, and we'll provide way forward. Means positive suggestions, like the state should make these changes in these programs. और suggestions कहाँ से आएगा? Committee reports. जो भी committee reports को जैसे एमडी नरेगा पे committee बनी. So it will talk about some recommendations. ARC recommendation will also be used. So based on this, we'll talk about these welfare programs. Then issues related to development and management of social sector. So development का सबसे बड़ा issue क्या है? So our paradigm of development has produced a specific phenomena, development induced displacement. And who is more impacted by development induced displacement? Scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and rural poors. So we'll look into these phenomena, how development has negative and both positive impact, because development also led to people moving out of poverty. So we'll look into those impact. Then we'll read about health, कि health के basic problems क्या है India में, and how these problems can be solved, and how various programs like Ayushman Bharat and other programs are solving. Same with education, Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, different programs, new education policy, how these are bringing changes, or how these have the potential to make India better, in the sense socio-economic development and human resources. Like पॉपुलेशन क्यों बढ़ रहा है? क्या पॉवर्टी पॉपुलेशन इंक्रीज कर रही है, या पॉपुलेशन इंक्रीज होने के कारण पॉवर्टी हो रहा है? शैल वी हैव न्यू काइंड ऑफ पॉपुलेशन पॉलिसीज और नॉट? सो बोथ इन पॉजिटिव ऑल्सो, नेगेटिव ऑल्सो. क्योंकि आपका आंसर क्या होना चाहिए? एक होलिस्टिक आंसर, होलिस्टिक पर्सपेक्टिव होना चाहिए, आइडियोलॉजिकल पर्सपेक्टिव नहीं होना चाहिए. So we'll talk about these idea of human resources, like female labor force participation rate has decreased after globalization. So where females are mostly employed? In informal sector. Informal sector is the most exploitative sector of any economy. you do not have social security benefit, you do not have proper wage, then there can be cases of violence. It is based on traditional structures of patriarchy, caste, kinship, and all these things. So we'll look into those things also. Then issues related to poverty and hunger, various kind of indicators are there, and through these indicators, we'll talk about how the issues of poverty and hunger can be solved, and what is the holistic perspective to look at poverty. Holistic perspective, like when we look at poverty, many people say that if there will be economic development, less people will be poor. But that idea failed. Why that idea failed? Because we have seen this trickle down approach not benefiting poor, because a state does not have the capacity to reach the last man of our society. तो स्टेट कैपेसिटी क्या है? वीक है. कैसे देखते हैं स्टेट कैपेसिटी वीक है? पीडीएस सिस्टम देखिए, लीकेजेज हो रहे हैं. लीकेजेज हो रहे हैं. आप देखो, बिहार में एक आदमी ने 11 या 12 बार कोविड की वैक्सीन लगा ली. इट मीन्स, हाँ, it means there is some problem with the capacity of the state. So at this time, a state has this much capacity, and therefore, what to do to increase this capacity, and also what are the way forwards. So we'll look into this idea of hunger also, different kind of hungers, hidden hungers. तो उन सब आइडियाज की भी इसमें बात करेंगे. So when we're talking about social justice, we'll be more talking about laws, rules, regulations, and committee reports, mainly from the perspective of policy making. हम वहां से इसको देखेंगे. In Indian society, here we'll be looking from theoretical perspective कि कास्ट का आइडिया क्या है, बेसिक फिलॉसफी क्या है कास्ट का, और पेट्रियार्की क्या है. तो उन सब चीजों को हम देखेंगे यहाँ पे. Why politicians are enhancing this casteism and reservations. So when we'll read about how caste becoming a form of identity. Identity means I'll get benefit from this. So we'll look into various processes like process of Sanskritization. It's also providing a new kind of identity in the post-colonial India. Then impact of West, this globalization और उसका जो impact हो रहा है. And at the same time, the failure of modernity. Like we moved from community to individualized living. We have very less interactions with people. So we are always missing this sense of community. And this sense or getting this community is very easy in this technological world. तो क्या होता है कि हम रिलीजन की तरफ वापस जा रहे हैं. हम जो है सो वापस these traditional system की तरफ जा रहे हैं because there is some kind of alienation among us. Like we do not see any meaning in this. Like when you look at world, there is no such meaning. Like the meaning that were given by people who are one or two generation जो हमसे पहले हैं, उनका क्या था, लाइफ में मीनिंग थी. सोशल रोल्स मीनिंग. हमारे क्या है, सोशल रोल्स चेंज हो रहे हैं. चेंज क्यों हो रहे हैं? टेक्नोलॉजी चेंज हो रही है, इकोनॉमी चेंज हो रही है. किसको पता था कि अब छोटे छोटे बच्चे भी मोबाइल पे रहेंगे? वो चेंज हुआ ना, कितना 10-12 सालों का चेंज है. तो बहुत रैपिडली चेंज हो रहा है. तो अब उसके कारण क्या है कि ये जो कास्ट का जो आइडिया है, इट बिकम्स वेरी पावरफुल टूल टू गार्नर वोट्स. हम बताएंगे कि उसमें कास्ट बेस्ड पॉलिटिक्स की कैसे कास्ट बेस्ड पॉलिटिक्स होता है और वाई पॉलिटिशियन यूज इट. सो विल लुक इनटू दीज थिंग्स कि जीतने के चांसेस किसी कैंडिडेट के अधिक किसके होंगे, अगर वो किस कास्ट से है, वो उस पर बहुत अधिक मैटर करता है. तो लाइक सो एवरी पार्टी आप देखोगे सेम ही कास्ट का कैंडिडेट एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी में खड़ा करता है कि जिससे सबके चांसेस इक्वल हो. So we'll look at why these things. Then we'll also talk about reservations, like this caste-based reservation, class-based reservation, and why reservation should be on the basis of caste or class or not on the basis. Like there is one argument that reservation is not a poverty alleviation program. Reservation is mainly about representation. So why do we give reservation? Because these groups are not represented at different levels of our society. Therefore, we give them reservation. When you give class-based reservation, it means that you are saying that they are poor, so they should be getting jobs. For this, the state should create more jobs not in numbers, but also the quality of jobs should be better. अभी क्या है, क्वालिटी ऑफ जॉब्स क्या है, बहुत ही खराब है इंडिया में. आप सॉफ्टवेयर में जाते हो, आप क्या काम करते हो, वही प्रोग्राम एक्सेल सीट और वो जिसके लिए कोई स्किल की जरूरत नहीं है, वो आप काम कर रहे हो. देर आर वेरी फ्यू पीपल हु आर वर्किंग इन R&D और वर्किंग एज डेवलपर्स. सो क्वालिटी ऑफ जॉब्स इंक्रीज करोगे, तभी क्या होगी, सोशल मोबिलिटी होगी. सोसाइटी हम जितनी भी चीजें पढ़ेंगे वो किस लिए पढ़ेंगे? हाउ टू create more opportunities for social mobility, like someone from a poor background can have a better life. तो सोशल मोबिलिटी होगी, इकोनॉमिक मोबिलिटी. इन कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन को हटा देते हैं तो वहां पे भी सोशल मोबिलिटी हो रही है. सो वी लुक फॉर दीज आइडियाज. Okay, so any question? So we'll mainly use NCERT, and uh, you all do not have to read anything more than NCERT because we'll provide materials. हम लोग उसमें बाकी जो sources हैं will bring things from there. क्या? नहीं, वेटेज वो चेंज हो रहा है अभी वेटेज तो. Like when you talk about this weightage, so in GS paper 1, you'll get around 60 marks question from this Indian society. 60 marks. Sometimes it can even go to 80, 70. So, but what now UPSC is doing, it is merging both post-independence and Indian society part. So it is one change. So you have to look at both the things together. तो वहाँ पे वो है. And it's very easy to get 70 to 80% marks in this Indian society part. Because if you have arguments, you have to write arguments, then you have to give examples. Write another dimension, give example. So you can very easily score marks. In the case of social justice, so social justice is somehow connected with this idea of governance. Governance क्या करता है? Institutions की बात करता है. Then from governance, we move to the manifestation of governance. कि governance से कुछ हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा है. तो हम वहाँ आते हैं social justice में. So here also we get questions around 40 to 50 marks. So and you can very easily बहुत ही आसान क्वेश्चन आते हैं इससे. बट आपको क्या होगा, आंसर थोड़ा बेहतर करना होगा, क्योंकि आसान क्वेश्चन में क्या है, योर आंसर शुड बी इनोवेटिव बिकॉज एवरीवन विल बी राइटिंग द सेम पॉइंट. तो हाँ. सो एनी अदर क्वेश्चन? कोई और है क्वेश्चन पूछना? सो थैंक यू एवरीवन, थैंक यू वेरी मच.